College tennis fans, welcome to this episode of College Tennis Talk. Today we are joined by South Florida men's head tennis coach, Ashley Fisher. Ashley just finished his 5th season with the Bulls. During his time there, he has been a part of 3 championship conference titles. Ashley, thanks for joining us. So now let's spin and begin. Ashley, you're in Tampa. You played your college tennis, TCU. You go on tour, have a great career, reaching the semifinals, U.S. Open. You retire 2012. How did you end up in college coaching?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to tell our story here. So, to be honest, I was a little bit of a lost soul after stopping. My identity was so wrapped up in playing, and I really just had a tough time. After that, I had a lot of injuries at the end of my career, and I felt like I was playing some of the best tennis of my life. Got to a career high ranking in 2009, and I couldn't get a full season out of that. I just kept on starting, stopping. Had 4 knee surgeries, so there was a lot of frustration on my end. I felt like I wasn't retiring on my own terms. Felt like there was still plenty of tennis left in the tank, and I just made a quick decision to stop. My first son was born. A good friend of mine, Stephen Huss, who I was playing with, he stopped just out of nowhere. Didn't really give me a heads up. We just lost the U.S. Open 7-5 in the third, and he tells me that's it for him. So, I went to Asia that fall and didn't have any partners lined up, and it just, for whatever reason, those tournaments, a lot of my friends weren't there, and it was a pretty lonely few weeks, and there was some guilt about being away from my wife and child, and so I quickly made a decision that was it for me. I was having a really tough time playing on hard court. Just my knee wasn't. I could get a good match, but then the next day, just backing up was really problematic. It was swelling up, and so anyway.
That's tough if you're trying to make deep runs in tournaments, not being able to play back-to-back days.
Yeah, I mean, especially, yeah, you're right. The further you get, the more kind of necessary it is to, the end of the tournament. You often play a semi and a final, or we'd had success in slams that year in 2011, and playing really, really good second round matches, and then just getting whacked the next round. And I mean, not all of it was my knee. I mean, we came up against opponents that would have been tough under any circumstances. But yeah, I just felt like I just wasn't as explosive, and I wasn't a particularly athletic guy to start with. So you take a little bit away from it, a little bit slower, and I didn't have a big serve, and I was relying on just a lot of fundamentals that became harder once I was a little step slower. I couldn't get back for overheads, but so I got into coaching. I worked with some guys on the tour, and I was enjoying that, but I felt guilty about that as well. I felt like I've had my wife that's been so understanding. She supported me for that's the only life we'd ever known, really. It was just me being on the road, and unfortunately she was working in tennis for a lot of those years. She worked for the WTA, so we'd get a lot of crossover weeks where we'd see each other. When she was working, she wouldn't have to burn vacation. I wouldn't have to take a week off. But she got out of tennis, and I just, it was a lot on her. So now we're around 2014, 15, started working at a tennis club, just teaching lessons. Didn't really enjoy that. Got out of tennis completely for a brief period, worked for a private equity company. I just had a tough time handling that, being inside, and just, it was good in the sense it reminded me how much I love tennis. And finally, there was the USTA had a nationwide wildcard tournament. You might remember they had it on for a few years. And I played that. I played that in the doubles with a good friend, Nathan Healy. And so we won our section, and then you have a couple of months before you go to the Nationals, which is right before the US Open. It was played at New Haven, and we lose in the final. We're one match away from the US Open. It's the US Open's an hour away. I mean, I had it in my mind that I was playing. I got very overconfident, which is pretty rare for me to kind of get ahead like that. But I wanted it so badly, and it was devastating. But it was so much fun, the whole process. The summer, I trained a lot. I played some money tournaments, and my wife sensed just how much I was enjoying it, and she felt like, at the time I was 39. At the time, she felt like if I wanted to go and play, she didn't want me to probably resent her or the situation. So, she gave me carte blanche. She said, I'll support you. We'll make it work if you want to go out and give it another shot. And my knee at the time was feeling better. I had stem cell therapy. I was doing everything to try to get my knee right. And so I was all set to take another run at it. I played a few future events and was getting ready for 2016 to play a whole year. And that's when, it was in December, when Matt Hill called me, and I didn't have much of a relationship with Matt. I knew who he was, and he said, "We've got an opening here." His assistant, Brandon Wagner, had just left. He'd gone to the private sector to work with Adam Neff, a good guy that's now we're going to see soon in college. So I had a few days to decide. Matt was looking pretty quickly to find somebody. They were mid-year, and I think what I was really missing wasn't necessarily the tour. It was just a purpose in life. I just felt like I needed a job that got me excited, that got me out of bed in the morning, that I was passionate about. And college tennis coaching seemed to be a better long-term solution than going and playing the tour again, which was finite. It wasn't going to last. I was 40, so how many years did I have left? Probably not many. And also, this is all coinciding with Devin Bowen, who's now at TCU, good friend of mine, former doubles partner. He got into college coaching with David Roditi. They're both teammates of mine. We played on the same team at TCU. And so I started following college tennis a little bit the last couple of years. I went to a couple of TCU matches, and I was really impressed by the level, and I was hearing a lot about it. So, it really, while I wasn't thinking seriously about college tennis, there were things happening that sort of was conspiring to help it. The stars were aligning, and I'm really, it's probably the best decision I've ever made. I've loved it so much, and it's just, it really did fit that bill. I wake up every morning. I'm excited to get to work. I've been so fortunate with the people that I've worked with. I've just had incredible coaches around me, and great kids on the team, and it really is just a tremendous way to work.
Well, Ashley, that's a good story, and I think it's a journey. Yours might have been a little bit more traveled than most of ours, but trying to find that transition after being an athlete and our sport, whatever that might be, and finding out what we're doing after that, and then waking up with that same passion for that day. And college tennis is an unbelievable situation where then you're waking up with that passion, and then you're able to surround your guys with your teammates and coaches in a department that shares in that same passion. And what better way to spend our careers? You had mentioned your start at South Florida and joining Matt Hill's program there. And that's a bit unique in itself, that a lot of coaches that are coming up in the ranks are spending time and getting mentored and learning programs and cultures from various coaches. And you really spent one semester with Matt before being given the reins of the South Florida program. So who have you been leaning on after being named head coach, and what can you share with your time with Matt Hill?
Well, that's a great question. And unfortunately, Matt, for me, really, Matt felt like he was going to have a lot of time to mentor me, to help me, to open the vault. He's a guy that's had tremendous success. He's been in college tennis for 10 years, had such a good record of transforming programs, really through culture. But he was a terrific recruiter as well, but he emphasized culture. But we had such a great group of players that spring that Matt was focused for me on just spend time with the guys, just get familiar with their games, scout opponents, just all of your spare time. I want it being invested in the player development. And we'll get to during the summer, and we can get to some of the other stuff. Matt loved it here. He wasn't planning on leaving, and that never happened. Out of nowhere, I was at Wimbledon recruiting, and Matt called and said he was going to Arizona State. So, you bring up a great point. We never got to some of the lessons that I was hoping to have learned. But we've remained very good friends. We connected quickly. We became close. He's always there. Just anytime I need to call him, he'll always be willing to help. David Roditi has been a guy that I call a lot. We have a great relationship, and he's always willing to kind of offer advice. But I know you mentioned journey, and that really is a good word for me, because when I first started college tennis, I loved it because I felt like it's tangible, right? You can measure your success. But I was thinking in terms of wins and losses. I wasn't thinking about the actual character development of young men, which is ultimately, equally, if not more important. And I know kind of how much I've grown, because when Matt sat me down the first day there and he asked me to articulate my philosophy in tennis, and I can't remember what I said, but it wasn't a very long answer. It wasn't anything like what it would look like now. And at that point, I'm just thinking, hey, this is all about X's and O's and about just strategy, and it's not going to be difficult. You're a coach. I mean, there's so much more goes into it than that. I mean, I'd never coached more than one or two people, and you have to coach 9 or 10 guys differently. I mean, every person is unique with their character, their personality. They receive information differently. Like there's just so many nuances to coaching, and I didn't understand that. I just felt like you get good players, you work hard, you've got some good drills, you teach them about the game, and away you go. It's as simple as that. And it's it really took having a lot of things go wrong and making a lot of mistakes to learn some lessons, to see sort of what was missing and how important that was. And I'm sort of fortunate to get that in my second year as a head coach. We just had one of those years where everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. And the guys were frustrated. They were turning a little bit on each other, turning on me, and we didn't have the culture right, and it was on me. I'm at the top. I wasn't setting the tone. I wasn't emphasizing it, and so it was a tremendous lesson that year. And that's probably when I started figuring out that, hey, there's a lot to this. You've got to be. I'm fortunate that I have an hour commute. I live in St. Petersburg, which is about an hour in bad traffic from campus. So I spent a lot of time in the car, and now it's all audio books, it's podcasts, I'm now fascinated by just coaching and just all the different things that go into that, and just how important it is, and just connecting with the guys, and how much the saying of it doesn't matter what it's they don't care what you know until they know that you care. That there's so much to that. You've got to earn the players' trust. You've got to show them that you're more than a tennis coach if you want to get the most out of them. So it's been a terrific journey, and it's awakened a hunger for learning inside of me, and that's what's exciting. It's not just um, applicable to tennis as well. It's life, and that's, as a father now as well, that's an important lesson for me to pass on, that it never ends. There are always things to learn, and we'll never master this game. I mean, it's just, you just have to keep at it, and keep doing your best, and you emphasize effort and learning and competing, and it's just a cycle, and just on it goes.
Yeah, and you mentioned and discuss a bit of getting your guys to know you care, and coaching privately is tough enough, and then all of a sudden you're given a team or part of a team with 9-10 players on it, and how do you get each one of those guys to realize you care? And there's many obstacles that get in the way of that. Position in the lineup, the way you're talking to somebody and trying to walk somebody through a tough period, and you might neglecting having somebody else feel like you're neglecting them a bit. It is a very unique dynamic to try to navigate through, and it seems to constantly change. So it's an interesting, point that you're bringing up there. One of the reasons that draw me to you and inviting you to be a guest on this show, and you started getting into it a bit, just, it's making you think and reflect on things in every part of your life, every facet out there. And it were some of the daily postings you were putting and comments, when the season was taking a turn, for the tennis community to stay positive and lean on one another and try to help each other get through this time. And, so it was right after that, I commented or liked on one of the things you were saying. And then, you went further. I said, okay, I need to talk to this guy. I want him to share some of this message. And you've continued to do that. So, explain some of that and your thought and your ideas of having the coaches get through this together and the message daily that you're trying to put out there.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Initially I was pretty disappointed just by some of the reactions I was reading on social media, just with this climate, this COVID-19, the way it's hit college athletics, the economy, and I just felt like now is not a time to be divisive. We have to. Everybody's struggling. All of our lives have been affected, some more than others. But it's, during these times, this is where, just like we tell our athletes, when things get tough, that's when you find out who you are, and that's what we need to do as society. We need to do as a community, as coaches, and just help each other through this, and kind of band together and just focus on what we have. Gratitude is a huge part of our program, and just trying to help the guys understand what they have. Look at what you have. Don't look at what you don't have. It's if you fall into that trap, you're going to be disappointed, because you can always find people that have more than you. So more than anything, we just want our guys enjoying the sport. These years are precious years. They're some of the best years of your life. I had incredible memories playing college tennis. I was very fortunate to be on a great team full of just class guys that are still some of my best friends. An amazing coach, and we want that. We want that for our guys. It's a good way to live your life. They're going to play better tennis when they're like that. They're going to represent college tennis. They're going to represent South Florida, the community, much better if they can just visibly project that they're enjoying what they're doing, whether they're winning or losing. I mean, not that any of us enjoy losing, but you can enjoy the battle that you're in. You can still project that you're exactly where you're meant to be in life, on that court, down a set and a break, fighting back. I just, now it's taken even more of a turn, I feel, because there's a spotlight on college athletics, and each sport we'll have to, and we just have to do our best. We just have to adapt, exactly like we tell our student athletes. We're in a battle right now. There's variables, there's things that are going against us, and we can't control that, but we can control our response, and that's always going to be what's important and what defines us. And we can choose kind of our attitude and our reaction, and just the most successful people in life are always going to be able to flip things and turn adversity into an opportunity. And there's one here as well. I mean, already I think we're realizing that we're doing things that we probably should have been doing, prior to COVID-19. I'm spending more time calling. I have a weekly call with my sister and my brother in Australia, my parents. That's something that I've never done. I've never done that consistently, had them all there on the screen. And that's something that we all agreed, pandemic or not, that's going to continue. We've had time to reflect on what's important in our lives. And hopefully we're all, I heard, PJ Fleck is an incredible coach at Minnesota. Back to your first question, I study a lot of coaches. I have on my wall here, I have Phil Jackson, I have Pete Carroll, I have PJ Fleck. I have my own coach. And one project is right now is like really study 3 coaches that you admire and almost, put yourself in their shoes and kind of live their lives, absorb their greatness. And PJ Fleck, his wife, said that Mother Nature has sent us all to our room and told us to think about the way we've been living, and she'll let us know when we can come out.
Well, I think you're definitely sending out a positive message. And so keep up the good work with that. I want you to touch on the way your team handled it. And did you already see a growth and a reflection in them, staying positive through that time? Or how did they handle that disappointment of being told their season was being cut short?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how you've kind of felt about this, but personally, I've gone through a few different stages. I think we're in week 8, and it hasn't all been the same. So, a lot of the feedback that I've heard was, the guys they started out okay, and just more recently now they're struggling a little bit. And I mean, a lot of your listeners probably don't understand quite the structure that student athletes have. We have an app, and every single minute of the day is basically assigned for the student athletes. I mean, I could pull up somebody's schedule in 2 weeks' time and just tell you exactly what their day looks like, when their morning lift is, when the fitness is, when their morning individual is, class, appointment with academic coordinator, lunch, afternoon practice, massage, tutoring, night class. I mean, it's all there. And to go from that to just being cut loose and not having any structure. And it was just a huge adjustment. I mean, that was my biggest concern, that we've created this system where there's so much oversight and so much support. And now, because most of our guys are international, and now we've just got guys all around the world on their own. But we've got a good group of guys, and we've really tried hard just to keep the team connected. We have a weekly Zoom call. We have what's called the Bulls chat. I'm sure most teams have some sort of WhatsApp group where we all communicate, and just trying to find ways to keep the guys engaged and keep them interacting, and just remind them that their family is still here, even though they can't see them. I started trying to learn a little bit about each guy's city, and I would kind of post one paragraph on Valencia, Spain, and the population, and a little bit of a historical nugget, and just I felt like there's an opportunity here, because I believe you can enhance relationships through knowledge and understanding, and the more you know about somebody, the more you can understand them and relate to them. So, information is a commodity, and it helps. So, I that's one thing I was doing. I mean, we have the guys post things that they're grateful for at the end of every day. 3 things that went right during the day, and we call it optimism training. We're just trying to get them to see the world through that lens, because I don't believe people are born positive or negative. I believe that they're learned skills, and the more you train yourself to see that glass as being half full, to see things going right. It's like the thing I like to picture is that Terminator sort of scanner, where he's looking around, and that his computer is assessing things, and hopefully the more you practice it with that positive filter, the more you see kind of the good things, and the bad things you skip past them. You don't notice them. So yeah, and then you just it's also on us just to kind of have the pulse of the team and know which guys might be struggling a little bit more, which are the guys that typically through the year need more communication, need more attention. Who are the guys that are more independent, that aren't, we all have a different relationship with the sport, with the team, with the university, and just knowing that as a coach is important. But we've got some good leadership as well. We have a very close group of guys. We really emphasize that. We talk about that every day. We believe that's the difference between teams when your skill set is comparable. It's which team is closer. They're gonna dig deeper kind of when things get tough. So the guys know that has helped their performance, and we've got a lot of buy-in, because it really worked out last year. I mean, we were almost at the point of kind of predicting things to happen, and they were happening, and it just, with a young team, it gave us so much credibility. So the guys buy in because they believe it enhances their performance, but they also, I mean, who doesn't want to be on a closer team, right? I mean, it makes sense that you want to be playing for your brothers rather than guys you don't like. So they're also invested just from that angle of, I want to be close to my friends. I'm around these guys all the time. Let's spend time investing in the relationships, and because you can't fake it. You've got to put in the work. You've got to have the conversations. You've got to call each other out. You can't just a true friend won't let you do things that are against your goals and against the culture. They're gonna call you out. They're not afraid to have an uncomfortable conversation. They're not afraid to say something that may not be received that well in the moment, but at the end of the day, that guy's going to be like, you know what, mate, I really appreciate you coming and getting on me. My attitude was bad, and I wasn't being a great teammate, and thank you for giving me a chance to turn it around, so the whole practice wasn't like that.
Well, actually, it definitely sounds like you're creating a great culture there with your team, and it appears, and I hope they know how much you care about them. They're lucky to have you as their mentor, as their head coach. So keep up the good work there. Again, I've loved the message you're sending out to the entire tennis community and your community of friends of staying positive and coming together and getting through, not just this time, but every day together. It's a great message. Keep putting it out there. Going back on your team and how they handled the suspension of the season. A lot of seniors are affected by this. What was South Florida's stance on having seniors come back? How was your team handling it?
Yeah, we were a little bit confused initially. The NCAA came out pretty quickly with that statement that everybody saw, saying that the seniors would get a year back. I mean, we interpret that as every student athlete would get a year of relief. But then they postponed, or the actual official vote wasn't for another few weeks' time. So we weren't quite sure what that meant. And our guys were pretty understanding. I mean, at the time, I think they sort of had bigger fish to fry. One of our seniors is from France, and he was trying to get home. But I mean, I think there was a lesson to be learned, even without the relief, because we say it all the time as coaches. I'm sure you say it. Coaches say it constantly, that you just never know when it might end. It could be a career-ending injury. It's finite. Tennis is not. It's not given. You never know kind of what might happen. So that's why you've got to go out there and be present and enjoy, every match, every session. And it was strange for us when it all ended, because we were playing UPenn, and the Ivies were the first conference to suspend the season. And they actually knew. That David, who was the head coach there, came to me and said, "Can we get a number 4 doubles going? Can we get a 7, 8, 9 singles? I want everybody to get on court today, because this is our last match." And it was such a strange feeling. I wasn't sure how to, I didn't want to tell our guys, but it just, I mean, it was. I can't even remember like that hour. I wasn't even part of our warm up. I was just so thrown off emotionally by it.
Were you able to coach that match? I mean,
yeah,
with the same intensity. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I mean, and to UPenn's credit, I was expecting. It could sort of go two ways, right? You don't know if they're just going to come out just loose and just firing and completely dangerous and playing well because it's sort of there's no consequence to it, or if they're as soon as they get down, they're just going to act like it doesn't matter. The season's going to be cancelled. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but they fought hard. It was a keenly contested match, but one of our seniors was really struggling. He's a guy who deals with nerves a lot, and he doesn't get comfortable very often. Amazingly, he's able to perform really well and has a great college record the last couple of years, and has come through for us so many times. But he just wasn't enjoying it. He wasn't comfortable. And then so I'm sitting here with this piece of information, watching this, and I'm saying I came up with the decision, like, I don't want this to be his last match the way he's kind of carrying on right now. So I'm going to tell him. I'm going to tell him, and hopefully he can make some sort of shift. And so I did. I just said, look, this is what they've told me. This may be your last college match ever. So let's just start swinging a little more freely and try to find some joy out of it. Just look to build momentum. I mean, that's a message I often give. Just I believe the champions are a guy like Nadal is just looking for anything that he can grab a hold of to create momentum. He'll convince himself that point is the turning point. And if it's not, he'll say it again. He'll start over. It's this point. It's this point. He'll keep doing it until it's either worked or until he's lost. But he won't. He's relentless in his pursuit of a reason to convince himself that things are turning. So, I mean, it helped a little bit with this player. He was able to free up a little bit, and he won the match. But it was just such a strange dynamic. And
so, are your seniors going to come back? Is he going to play?
Yeah, he will. He'll come back. It was actually so. I forgot what the question was there. So glad you.
That's
jumped.
all right.
But
I enjoy hearing you speak. I like the little bit about Nadal. It's great information for all our college listeners.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks.
Just trying to find that piece to build on.
Right.
Due to
Yeah,
that.
he's one of the best ever at it. So to answer the question, we have a very supportive athletic director, Michael Kelly, and I mean, geez, you talk about a journey. He's been here for a couple of years. He's had to. Charlie Strong was our football coach. Michael had to let go. He had to find a new football coach all in his first year, and now this has happened. So, talking about baptism by fire, but he's done an incredible job of leading us, and the culture that he's setting is really pretty special. I haven't worked anywhere else, so I'm very curious what it's like at other universities and other programs. And you raised a great point of like, I haven't been under a lot of coaches that I can learn from, but I'm pretty convinced that Michael, our AD, is one of the more relationship based positive guys. I mean, there's this open access to him. He's constantly popping his head in my office, just, hey Ash, how's it going? It's so clear that he cares about all of us, and that he's in this world just to serve people and to make a difference. So he pretty much just left it up to the discretion of the coaches and said, we're not going to have a blanket approach here. It's going to go sport by sport. It's going to go case by case. And I'm going to trust you guys. You make that decision. But it was a pretty easy decision with us, just because both our guys are coming back already in December. For the fall semester. They still had more school to go. They weren't going to graduate. So you're talking about just adding on a spring season for them. So it from their standpoint, I think it makes sense to most of the guys prefer the spring to the fall. So if you're going to hang around for half a year, tack on the best part of the year and play some matches. And we have aggressive goals here, and we felt like we had a really good team this year, and there's unfinished business. So they're excited to come back. We're excited to have them back, and we're grateful to have the support of USF in bringing them back.
Well, we're looking to have everybody back, and I'm glad your seniors are getting another opportunity to, finish out their collegiate careers to the end, and do it on their terms. So hopefully they both return and stay healthy through that season, and likewise to all our college players that had their seasons cut short. So I think we all just can't wait to get back on the court and doing what we love doing best. Hey, we're going to shift into the next segment of the show, our quick volleys. So I'm going to fire off some questions to you and look for your quick reply.
All right.
All right, Ashley, you ready for quick volleys? First tennis racket you ever played with?
I'm embarrassed to say, and I knew you were going to ask this question. I can't even remember what it was. It was a wooden racket. I remember playing with the Prince Magnesium that Pat Cash used, but that wasn't my first racket. I'm ashamed to say I can't remember. It was some sort of Bambino, I believe, but I Googled that and I can't even find it.
All right. Well, maybe you can remember this a little bit better. Racket used during your college career?
Well, that's an interesting question. I used what's called a Speeder Mega Blaster. It was an Australian company at the time. Or it might have been Italian, SFIDA, Speeder. They were making rackets. I was a guy that could play with anything. They probably gave me a couple of free rackets and I used it. And it was not a conventional racket. You wouldn't find too many pros using it. And then later I switched to the Wilson Sledgehammer, which was some sort of rectangular kind of snow boot. You go and the 3.5 players at the local club, they would laugh at it if somebody was using it. So, I was not your stereotypical stylish, prototype tennis player. people would look at me and be like, how did you lose to that guy? That guy with those strokes, that equipment. It's like, yeah, I mean, I sort of embraced the role for a while, um, but then I kind of went a little more conventional later in my life.
So what was the racket you were using during your U.S. Open semifinal run?
By that point, I'd switched to just the Wilson 6.1, pro stuff. But like I said, I was a guy that paid such little attention to technology, and so did my doubles partner at the time. At one point I had a different racket in my rotation, completely different stringing pattern, different head size, and I didn't know. I mean, it's 8 months in the year. I've been using this racket, and my doubles partner just picks it up and says, "Ash, you realize this is not the same as the other four rackets?" And I was just like, "Feels the same to me." And this, I got to tell this story. Trip Phillips is playing with Babolat, and we made the semis US Open, and so he calls up Babolat and says, "Oh, not just want to introduce myself. Trip Phillips, just made semis US Open. I'm wondering if you guys could help me and give me some support." And they said, the response was, "Trip, congratulations, first of all. We'd love to help and support you, but the only problem is we haven't made that racket in 4 years." so he's just, he's using some old racket that's been obsolete forever. So I mean, we were guys that just, we could play with anything. We weren't breaking many strings. We weren't. Yeah, I mean, some guys were on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, I played with a guy, Jim Thomas, who would hand in 5 or 6 rackets for every match. His stringing bill was more than our prize money, like a lot of weeks.
All right, Ash. So you're serving or returning to start a singles match?
I would always return. I just felt like if I get off to a slow start, it's not going to do me too much damage if I don't break. But I would also try to come out hot, kind of aware of flipping that on my opponent and hoping that maybe you could catch your opponent, not quite 100%, not quite locked in, and it was a great chance to sneak an early break in.
What about for doubles? Serve or return?
Yeah, both. I mean, same sort of philosophy.
All right. No ad scoring. Like or dislike?
I like it. I think you get more breaks, more momentum shifts. Yeah, it's pretty tangible. It's just, I think of it as 4 points. 4 points in a game. It's first to four. It's that simple. I don't like players that say, I should have broken. I should have won. I had 15-44 times. I should have. Well, no, man. You got 75% of the job done. You didn't get 100% done. It's pretty simple rules here. You got to win 4 points. You won 3. So just because you got to 3 many times doesn't give you the right to get to 4. You got to earn that last point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If you're returning a deuce point, are you going from the deuce or the ad box?
I think it varies just based on day to day. Like I played both sides. The year that we made semis US Open, we switched for the US Open. We've been playing the whole summer. I was on the deuce court, and we switched. We just changed it up. But I had a really good backhand return, but I wasn't that comfortable going line with it from the ad side. But from the deuce court, I could hit the off, and I could pull it hard line. I hit that shot really well. So, I had more variety, but on the ad side, if I was hitting my backhand cross well, I would get it a couple of inches from the line just every single time. It was a great shot. But,
well, that's not bad.
Yeah, sure, but I had more of the whole package on the court. So I had a better one shot on the ad, but the kind of the combination of all the different returns you have to hit, I felt better on the deuce court. So you get a guy that's playing eye on you, taking your cross court backhand away from the ad. My great backhand cross court isn't quite as effective.
All right. So worst place you ever played on tour?
Yeah, that's a good question. I traveled a lot. I went to many places, and early in my career, I was willing to go to places because I wanted to go places where people wouldn't go, right? Because I felt like it was going to be easy. And I'm now against that principle, kind of. But yeah, I mean, I was in Zambia, Lusaka, in Central Africa, and there was a revolution while the tournament was on. Guys running around with machine guns, trying to overthrow the government, like a legitimate military coup. Um, that was an experience. Just everybody hiding out in the hotel for the week. I At one point it was the last 2 weeks of the year, and I played. I mean, we used to play 15, 16 weeks straight. Like I didn't have a home really, and I felt like I'm away. I got to keep playing. I mean, again, terrible way about doing it. I was thinking it's a numbers game, more tournaments. I made a lot of mistakes. Now I advise quality over quantity. Take some training blocks, be ready to go. And the more I did that later in my career, the better I got. I had better results with half as many tournaments. But I went to this place in Bangladesh called Rajshahi, and I mean it's a $20 flight from Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, to this city. I mean, city is very generous, and it's a propeller prop plane, and the pilot it's a one sort of one man show. I mean, he's doing everything. He's running the airport. He's handing out drinks. He's flying the plane. He's the mechanic trying to get the plane going. I mean, half of the guys playing.
Hopefully the autopilot's working.
Yeah, yeah. Half the guys playing the tournament see this and they say, "We are not getting on that flight." The ticket cost $20. So, but I did. I flew there. We land, and there's no infrastructure to this place. There's no if you need toothpaste, there's no 7-Eleven. You just find a kid on the dirt road. Hopefully he's selling something. So it was literally like a hotel and tennis courts. And by hotel, I mean there was no hot water. There's no TV. I mean, you had to put a net over the bed. The hotel cost $5 a night. There's one TV in the lobby that you could watch. There's rats running around. I remember 4 days into the week, somebody said you could request a bucket of hot water. And I was like, what? Really? You can get hot water? And I felt like I was at the Four Seasons, kind of pouring this hot water on my back. It's amazing kind of just the perspective of how quickly things can change. But I was doing well. I made semis, the singles, and won the doubles. So, I was happy at the end of every day after chalking up a couple of wins. I'm in a good mood. I'm ready to handle anything. Whereas I've been in, New York City, great cities, and the younger version of me, the more immature, it was so contingent on winning, right? So if I didn't win matches at Wimbledon, it's not a good Wimbledon. So you're in a great city, you're at the Mecca of tennis, but no, not a good week, not a good tournament. But the older I got, the more I could just appreciate just playing on those courts. I'd do anything now just to hit on the courts. It's just a complete privilege just to be on the grounds.
Well, and your journeys, and we're getting off a little bit of our quick volleys, but it shows the absolute passion that athletes and we're discussing tennis players, but that they have for their sport. And too many times I think, we get away from appreciating the passion that these tennis players, these athletes have, and how much sacrifice they'd be willing to give up just to be able to play their sport. It's a craziness. And I'd love to hear more about your off the road journeys. They sound quite interesting, and we can learn a lot from them. But getting away from the worst places and toughest places you played, what is the best place outside of the Grand Slams that you played?
Stockholm, Sweden.
That was easy. There's no side story to that.
I didn't want. I cut that one short for you.
Okay. What's your favorite Grand Slam?
I've got to say Wimbledon. I think it's just on its own, the history, it's like golfers describe when they go to Augusta or is it St Andrews? The hair on your neck kind of rises. You act emotionally. You're moved when you get on the grounds of the All England Club. It's the only tennis club in the world that does that to me. It's sacred ground. It's holy ground. But if I had to win a tournament, it would be more fun winning it in Melbourne, in my home country with all my friends there. The crowd kind of getting a little rowdier. But as it just a tournament, just looking at it from a lens of just what's the best for everybody, what's the best tournament. You dream of winning Wimbledon as a young boy.
All right, what's the best venue in college tennis?
I think it's got to be Athens, Georgia. I played when Athens was miles ahead of the rest, and now it's a great thing for our sport and our industry that there have been so many improvements around the country and so many terrific facilities that can host NCAAs. But it's hard for me to look past my own memories of playing. And we played against the University of Georgia, and there's 2,500 Georgia fans barking at me, and it was an incredible experience. We lost the match, but it didn't matter. Just being part of that, that's what I just described about Wimbledon. For me, Athens is that place for college tennis. It's the place where it's like all of the memories of the greats. They're speaking to you as you walk past that road, that kind of where you look down on those top three courts. I get a sense of the greatness that's been there for the last 50 years.
No, I agree with you, and I think every college tennis player needs to find their way to Athens at some point in their collegiate career. What's the most exciting match you have coached?
That's a good question as well. That match that I just mentioned against Mississippi State, my first year, we were off to a bad start. We were 1-4. We'd lost the doubles point, and we won the match taking 4 singles, probably within about 2 minutes of each other. And I was on court 3 and 4, and we had simultaneous match points. We got both of them. And then I sprint over. Our number 6 guy had just won, and at 1 and 2, we have a guy serving for the match, and at 1 we're down 6-5 for the other guy serving in the third. We have a break point there as we have a match point to win the match, and Justin Roberts ends up winning it at 2. We beat a team ranked 16, Mississippi State. It's my first kind of signature win as a head coach. The team had some doubts at the time. 1-4 start. We'd lost to LSU, who were out of the top 50 at the kickoff weekend. We had a record crowd at the time. As our facility hosts about 350 people. It was packed. It was a pretty special memory.
No, it's great to hear, and your description of that match with just so many things going on, different courts, and that is the whole piece of an experience of college tennis, and adds to that, joy and love for it. That there is just so much going on, and need so many pieces to come together to create this, winning match, winning play.
We've had some incredible things. Last year we lost to UCF. They beat us 4-0 on our courts. And then a week later, we're playing them in the conference final. We lose a doubles point. We had 4 match points to win the doubles point, 2-2 simultaneously. And we lose, and we came back and won. It's just incredible. Like the guys were able to turn a match like that around. And the same 2 years prior, same thing against UCF in the conference final. They'd beaten us in the regular season. We lose the doubles point again, and then we 4 singles that we'd lost to them in the regular season, we win in straight sets. I mean, it was completely, we felt confident about winning, but the guy calling the match was a friend of Jimmy Harris and I, and, he's like, how are you going to do this? And we said something like, doubles 3-4, and we'll get a point somewhere else. And, we lose the doubles, we win at 1, 2, 5, and 6, just completely off script. I mean,
that's unpredictable, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of sports and the beauty of college tennis is it's just every day is a new day. Anything that's a message that we everybody should hear. Every athlete's got to hear this and know this, that any day anything is possible. I mean, if you just look around, like, you can't do it right now, but every day there are results that surprise people. So, it's never, it's just, I know we're on the clock here, but the one time I beat the Bryan brothers, and I started thinking about their careers, and I broke out into like a sweat, and like hives were probably popping up. It was just so overwhelming, just thinking about what they had done compared to what I had done. And I just realized, hey, this sort of thinking is not helping you, Ash. So hang on, you don't have to match careers. Like, nobody's asking you to do that. You just have to go and be better than these guys for 80 minutes on a Friday morning. And I guarantee there's been plenty of 80-minute stretches in their lives where you've been better. And if you need evidence of that, just pull up their results. You'll find some comparable results. And I actually did that. I actually wrote down a bunch of losses with guys that I kind of felt were my level. And I just thought about it in those terms. And sure enough, during that 80-minute window, we got them.
That's another great little tidbit that I'm going to take from you and push on to our team. Just 80 minutes right there. All right, we're going to finish up. We got 2 questions to end this show. Your favorite tennis movie?
You know what? Tennis hasn't done a great job of putting together a good, realistic movie. But the closest for me was the Borg McEnroe movie. I can't even remember what it's called. But I liked the way they went into, the stress that Borg was under. Just, I think too often people make the mistake of firstly thinking that athletes are born this way. They don't see all the thousands of hours behind the scenes, all the sacrifices, and just all the potential stress that can come with it. Right? I mean, it's all about perspective. I mean, Billie Jean King, she's got it right. Pressure is a privilege. You do anything to kind of have a sleepless night about defending, Wimbledon for a 6th time, but it did show kind of, for me, it gave me insight why Borg retired at such a young age, because he was having a tough time just dealing with the pressure and the expectations, and that movie did a great job of capturing that.
No, I really enjoyed that movie. I watched that movie on a flight over to England recruiting one summer, so it definitely helped make that flight more enjoyable. All right, last question for you, Ash. You've got 2 sons. How are they on the tennis court?
You know what? They play once a week. Recently, during this pandemic, we've been playing a little bit of doubles. Just and that, to me, that's, if you could ask me kind of one thing to get out of tennis, would be to have that opportunity, just to have them play enough to where we can play as a family. My parents had a court at home growing up, and just incredible memories of playing with my brother and and playing with my dad and my mum, and like, I was the youngest, so the family would be playing, and then I'd kind of carry this racket out, 3-year-old dragging a racket along the grass, and try to hit against the wall by myself. But I'm just going to expose them to a lot of different sports and see what they like. I've seen some parents that have wanted it more than the child, and I do not want to be one of those dads. If my kids love sports, I'll support them and give them as many opportunities as we can hope to give them. But it's not my decision to make.
Well, Ash, I appreciate your time with us. Once again, your team's lucky to have you. Your family's lucky to have you. You're doing a great job. Keep putting that positive message out to everybody, and we'll look forward to catching up next time.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate having the chance to come on. This is a terrific show, and I've enjoyed watching it grow.
All right, man. Thank you, and we'll catch up again.
Cheers, mate.
All right.
That was amazing, man.